Welcome, buddy.
you,
I'm so excited to talk to you about this, but this is a big deal because I'm a big fan of yours, and clearly we are too. And we have to get into Monkey Man because the internet for a while was going, hey, what's going on with Dev Patel? We want you to do another movie. Where are you, dude? What's happening?
I've been away for a second, man. I mean, it was. I had a friend send me one of those articles that, you know, like, where are they now? And it was me stepping out of a grocery store with, like, a mouthful of food.
You were eating?
No, yeah. It didn't look very good. And I was like, this is really...
You couldn't wait to leave the store to eat the sandwich?
yeah.
You actually were
I'm a skinny guy.
Yeah, I know, you need
nourishment.
Yeah, exactly, you do.
But, you know, and then, you know, we premiered at South by Southwest. I really didn't think anyone was going to show up. And there was a queue for 3 blocks long. And I turned to my friend... Thank you. I thought they were there. I was like, is the Ryan Gosling movie today? And they're like, no, they're here for you.
For you, bud.
And it was amazing.
Yeah,
and you won the audience award.
You won the audience award at South by Southwest. It's a giant deal. It's a great movie. You did a great job. You worked your butt off for this film, and this is a story based on something you heard as a kid?
Yeah, I've been working on it for over 10 years of my life.
Damn.
And
buddy,
it was, you know, it was hard. Like, I turned down some of the best work that I've been waiting for my whole career to birth this little gremlin of a film. And you know, my dad wears this chain around his neck with this monkey holding this one mountain in his hand. And I used to ask him, I was like, Dad, what's that about? And he's like, wait till your granddad comes back from Kenya and he'll tell you this story. And Hanuman is this kind of Indian mythology. And if you go to a gym in India, you'll see Arnold Schwarzenegger, the bodybuilder Ronnie Coleman, and Hanuman. and he's like, he represents nobility and strength and courage. You know, he's very similar to, like, Superman in the sense that he splits his chest in the iconography and flies. And, you know, for me, you know, he was also a hero that lost faith in himself. He didn't have courage at one point and needed to be reminded of who he was. So that was kind of the basis of the story for me. And, yeah.
So your character, you're like, oh, this is a great idea for a person, because basically it's like an underground fight club.
Yeah. It's this guy donning a cheap, you know, he's literally a performing monkey in this, donning a cheap, you know, like rubber gorilla mask, and people are throwing trash at this guy. And it's basically about, you know, it's the ultimate underdog action film. You know, I'm a huge fan of the genre. And
you're great in action films. Like the fight scenes in this and the chase scenes in this are fantastic.
Yeah, and I just, you know, I never had access to it. You know, looking like this gangly, you know, Indian dude. The only, you know, kind of roles I was getting offered is the funny sidekick or the guy that hacks the mainframe for the lead dude. You know, so like, I got to write this thing myself.
That's right, buddy. You got to write it yourself.
Thank you.
And you did it.
Yeah.
And you crushed it.
Oh,
but can you tell me the story at South by Southwest? Some a guy came up to you and said...
Yeah, there was this older, you know, American Indian gentleman. He shook my hand and then he didn't let go, and he goes, I just want to say I'm jealous of my 14-year-old son. And I was like, so that's an odd thing to say, to you know. Yeah. And he goes, you know, I never had someone like you expressed in a movie like this. I didn't have anyone to look up to, and my son does, so I'm deeply grateful. And I'd been crying a lot that day. I think my hormones were all...
that must mean so much to you,
It was huge. I mean, like, as a kid, I got into cinema watching Bruce Lee, you know, and seeing this man with a similar complexion to me, same sort of hair with so much charisma. You know, my mum bought me some nunchucks. I broke every cabinet in the kitchen. And, you know, that was my entry point to cinema. So for me, this is about all the marginalized and all the voiceless coming together in this action film to challenge the status quo, you know, and I'm super proud of it. There's so much culture, and it's vibrant and violent.
But it's fun, it's action-packed, it's fun, it's revenge, it's all the stuff you want in those popcorn movies.
Yeah.
You did a great job in it, and I was talking to you backstage, I'm like, but that scene where you're like, yeah, well, then we had to use... Yeah. You had 2 breakaway tables.
Yeah, well, yeah, because we shot it in the pandemic, and, you know, so all the borders closed on us, so if a camera broke, I was like, you know, there's a big car chase scene I take my iPhone in the tuk-tuk, and that's like part of the movie. It's in there, that one of the shots from my iPhone. We couldn't get a water tank, so my producer Joe in the edit room shot me in a bathtub, and you know, and that sounds wrong.
No, that's close. That scene's not in the movie.
We had to cut the budget down.
You were in Saltburn?
Yeah. I was the mud.
Yeah, I understand.
Barry was
of course.
lying on top of.
Okay, good.
But you do these big complex like action scenes, and I was throwing all these bad guys into these tables, and I'm feeling cool, and I call cut, and then straight away we're on our hands and knees trying to find all the pieces of balsa wood, and we're gluing them back together for take 2. Because I literally had like 2 or 3 breakaway tables.
So if you want to do this scene again, you have to put the table back together before you break it again.
I kill like the same 8 dudes over and over again, and their wigs, like one of the dudes looks like, we shot it in Indonesia, he looks like the Indonesian Santa Claus by the end of it, because like we were shaving eyebrows, it was
just to try to change their face.
Just to try and make them look different.
So you fought the same people through the whole movie?
Yeah.
You wouldn't know by watching it.
I shouldn't be saying this, should I? But
no,
I think it's cool.
I think you should.
Don't look for it, please. Yeah.
I think you should be saying it because you put your heart and soul and sweat and blood and tears into this movie.
Yeah.
You actually told me that you broke your hand during one thing, and you were like, I can't go tell the doctor about this because if I do, I'm going to get a cast, and then I'll have to reshoot the whole thing, and I can't afford that.
Everything that went wrong, it could have gone wrong, went wrong. And the first action scene, I'm basically, I'm like a crash test dummy, and my co-star's using my face to break every piece of porcelain in this bathroom. And my hand, I heard it snap. And I was like, this is not good. And I knew, you've got 450 people on an island. And if I go down, the film goes down. And, we had a purpose during a really prickly time in history. And I told my producer, I was like, don't say anything, let's just keep filming. By the end of it, the day, my hand was like an elephant's foot. And we couldn't afford to, put a cast on and VFX it out of this movie. So we found a way to get around the system by getting this cheap medical private jet to keep the COVID bubble. And we flew to Jakarta that night. The doctor put a screw in my hand. And he goes, you cannot put more than 1 pound or 2 of pressure on this thing. Otherwise, it's like pulling a bent nail out of wood. You will ruin your bone. And I was like,
you got to read the script, doctor. You got to read the script. I'm fighting this whole movie.
And actually, I went straight back to set the next day and was throwing myself and bouncing off a window. And the crew, they made a T-shirt, which I actually bought for you. One of the guys got my X-ray, and they call it the one screw that kept this production alive. But there's the hand on the T-shirt.
I actually have the real X-ray right here. This is the real X-ray. This is the screw in the hand.
That's the thing. And they have the little COVID bubble there, and Monkey Man at the back. So there you go, brother.
I'm honored, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm honored. And they must have been psyched to have a leader like you freaking through this. And you ended up with a great film. And I also wanted to say, before we show the clip, you were inspired by our very own Questlove.
Questlove.
From The Roots.
You're a huge inspiration to me, man.
How?
While I was writing this, I saw this Nike advert with you and Kyrie Irving, where you're like tearing up the drums, you're ferocious, and he's responding with a basketball. And it was this amazing kind of musical piece that led to this beautiful crescendo. And, doing an action film, you have to do an iconic training sequence. And for me, in our culture, music is everything. So we got the one-of-one best Indian classical musician, this guy, Zakir Hussain, who plays this Indian instrument called the tabla. He just won a bunch of Grammys, actually.
He did.
And he's like in his 70s. He came down in quarantine for 2 weeks to play for a couple of days. And, he's like R2-D2. He doesn't talk, so he just plays with his drums. And I respond on this dusty rice sack. And it was incredible, like one of the most amazing moments. So it's because of you that I wrote that scene.
Wow, that's because of... I want to show everyone a clip. Here's Dev Patel in Monkey Man. Take a look.
Yeah. Yeah.
with stand-up from Jackie Fabulous. Stick around, everybody.